uno, cinco. Well, Packers are in the Super Bowl. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl, unfortunately, which is right next to where I live and me and Jeff, so that's some brutal there. Then the Chiefs, they could be the first team to repeat. First team to have a three-peat, and the last time it happened was the Green Bay Packers in the NFL history, and the Packers were able to do that twice. So that goes to show you who the best franchise is in the NFL history is the Packers, folks. That's how it proves it. Let's head to the intro.
This is Tom Grossi, and you're watching the PackReacts podcast.
Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to PackReacts. I'm your host, Jamie Hadler, along with our other host, Mike Arviano. And today we are discussing the Packers Super Bowl preview. The Packers are not in, but we're going to discuss the Super Bowl preview of the Eagles Chiefs a bit and talk a bit of the Packers offseason. But we have a special guest on here tonight for this episode because usually we do our episodes on Thursday night, but wanted to make a special episode and do a Wednesday just for all of you. And that's our special guest is Jeff. Thank you for coming back on, Jeff.
Of course. Thank you for having me back. After my
Jeff. Sorry, you're actually muted on the Twitter stream. Do you mind unmuting yourself? I can't unmute you.
X needs to hear Jeff's opinion, guys.
One second. There we go.
There he is.
I've been out.
Made it on X.
There we go.
I've been out of corporate world for 2 weeks, and I don't know how to unmute myself on webcast, apparently.
There we go.
No, thanks for having me back, guys. I am glad to be here, and I'm glad you invited me back after my long spiels on the last episode we did together.
Of course, the second, what do you call it? Second appearance. And now hopefully we get all four of us on with John. John was on last episode. Was it 2 weeks ago, right, Jeremy?
2 weeks ago,
So it's good stuff. And a lot has happened in the NFL world in the past 2 weeks. We have a Super Bowl matchup. I think that's going to be the beginning of our episode here. We actually have a member of the podcast that will be going to the Super Bowl. Although he will not be paying for it. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that kind of money yet. Being a senior in college, he'd have to get a pretty more lucrative internship than he has right now.
Exactly.
But he will be working indentured servitude for the Super Bowl. So, Jamie, why don't you tell the viewers about your upcoming experience?
Absolutely. So in my college, which is York College, Pennsylvania, we get to go to. They get to, in the sport management department. They get to go to the Super Bowl every year. So last year they've gone to the Vegas one. The only one they haven't this Vegas one, and then went to the Super Bowl before in Arizona. And that was the first time since COVID they went to, because previously because of COVID they went to the Miami one when it was the 49ers and Chiefs one. But they go to the Super Bowl every year, and they get to volunteer out there and just do like different kinds of experiences, whether it's working like hospitality out there, whether it's helping out with the media credentials, just scanning tickets. Like, I can't say much my role per se for it, but those are some of the roles you get to do. And then if you're going to the Super Bowl, one thing I would definitely recommend that everyone participates if you go to is the NFL experience. NFL experience is a lot of opportunities, like just a lot of events. Like you can play pickleball, you can play some Madden out there, you can go visit Radio Row, which Radio Row is all the podcasters, every single like media person you think of, like Stephen A. Smith, you think of Skip Bayless, which he's not on podcast, Shay, Club Shay, Jordan Love, he has his own podcast, Micah Parsons, like you think of all of these podcasters, media people, they're all there on Radio Row. She said too, you got Aaron Dagler, he's going out there for Super Bowl week. So that's a pretty awesome opportunity to do. Last year, obviously, Tom Grossi got to go there because he won NFL Fan of the Year. So I would definitely recommend that. And then another part of the NFL experience is they have autograph sessions. So you could meet, like, I think for this year, for like, I think it's like the first day when they have like all the media come in for like the Super Bowl Monday for like the Eagles and Chiefs, like they have every player come on the field. This year, for the autograph sessions right now that I know of, I think it's Mark Ingram and Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, right there for your autograph sessions. And it's first come, first serve, so you can go up to it. You have to pay a little bit of fee, and you can get in and you get the autograph. Just meet him in person right away. So Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And this will be obviously the first Super Bowl I ever go to in my life. To give you a fun fact, though, guys, my father went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans when the Packers played the Patriots back in the.
Oh, nice.
So it was a lot cheaper tickets than compared to today, guys. So I can
He
say
was a
that
paying customer.
he was paying customer. Yeah,
Got it. So it's a Hadler tradition. Super Bowls in New Orleans.
exactly. Where the Packers
Who,
play, unfortunately, it doesn't happen this year.
do you know who else went to the Super Bowl in Packers Patriots in New Orleans? You wanna hint?
Sure.
Famous. I don't know if that's gonna give it away, but I'll just
I
give it to you.
was gonna
Famous.
say, does his name rhyme with bike? But it's not you, obviously, is what we're getting at.
No,
Child Mike wasn't there.
Lil
no.
Wayne.
Yeah. Do you know why?
Oh,
Because if I'm correct, he's from like the area of New Orleans or something like that, and he grew up watching Favre. Like technically, he was a Saints fan when he grew up, but he changed to be a Packers fan because he went to the game because his father, I believe, purchased tickets, and his family is a whole Green Bay Packers fan, if I'm correct.
So I think the story is, and maybe somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm correct. I think his father went for like work or something, but yeah, I think they're from New Orleans, and I think his father got a whole bunch of Packers like
Oh yeah, yeah.
towels and stuff from the game, and he used those towels growing up that were Packers stuff because they were in the Super Bowl, and he lived in New Orleans, and I don't think they had a ton of money, and that was what his towel was. I think is the story that the stuff his father got from the Super Bowl there was what he was using day to day, and he became a Packers fan. That's my understanding.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah,
That's pretty
I
wild.
think so. I think so. All right, question for you, Jerry. So since this is
Yep.
your first time ever at the Super Bowl, is it only seniors at your school that get to go?
No, it's it can technically it could be a mix of like freshmen through seniors, but like freshmen and sophomores are very unlikely. Juniors, last year that I know of went to it, and this year I think we have one or two juniors going. So, but most of the majority of it is seniors though.
How do you get it? It's a lottery system, and we get to be part of something.
Sort of. So pretty much you have to like kind of pitch, like kind of do an interview process, like you're applying for a job, and you have to make your way. Like you have to, it gets you basically the way it used to be done was you just had to like write out like a cover letter, resume, and like you had to write out like a whole like reasons why, like a whole like essay about it. But nowadays it's just you don't send a cover letter there anymore. It's just like you send a resume and make a video of yourself why you should be a candidate, why you should be getting this position technically to be a part of the Super Bowl and be part of like the college Super Bowl team. And that gets reviewed by all the sport management professors and a total and our dean of the business building, which she was my sport management. She was like the president of the sport management department, pretty much, but she's dean of the whole business school. So it gets reviewed by her, it gets reviewed by professors, and there's about 3 or 4 professors. So it makes it all but table kind of like Supreme Court wise of like they gather up as judges and they kind of make their way to the process to see this person stand out, who's got the vote and who gets it. And most of the time it's just seniors that got to go, but there is like juniors that somehow get in, and they try to be fair about it to make it like equals to male female the whole time. But some juniors can get in though.
Interesting. Well, sounds like a fun experience. I've never
Yeah.
been to the Super Bowl. I don't think Jeff has ever been to the Super Bowl, and from our
Yeah.
conversation before the episode, it doesn't sound like he will ever be in the Super Bowl. So, so that should be fun, Jeremy. And hopefully, you're not sleeping on the floor in the hotel room. I know that's a point of contention.
Yeah.
Rite of passage for the newcomers, basically. Wait, so how many? I didn't realize that there was like a application or like a they only pick a select few per se. Like how many? Just out of curiosity, like how many people roughly probably applied, and like how many people are going?
Well, they trimmed it down this year. Last year, I think they had 16 people go, and then they had to trim it down a little bit because of costs and like a little bit of like expenses. So now it's 11, and I think usually the people now apply is like 30 to 40 people. I think usually apply at least to the Super Bowl every year to like in our sport management major because it's not only like sport management majors can apply, every major can apply. You can have like a supply chain major. You can have an accounting major apply for apply for it. But most of the time, it's mostly sport management and sport media that apply. But you can have that random major like education major. You can apply for it and they somehow get it. Like they could like some random major could fall in, and it has happened. I think it was a finance major a couple years ago. They did a story on him on my school's webpage. They did a story about him, and he got to go there.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's going to be an incredible experience and like very selective, obviously, that you get chosen to go. So enjoy it, even though I assume you'll be actually, I should make that assumption. I was going to say, I assume you'll be rooting against the Eagles, but at this point, I think everybody who doesn't live in the state of Missouri, has Chiefs fatigue and is not really a fan of them either. So I don't know which side to be leaning towards, honestly. You'll probably be distracted by all the famous people and athletes that you're surrounded by. So probably won't be
Jeremy's gonna be trying to get Taylor Swift's autograph.
Oh boy.
He's gonna be in a lavender haze.
I should just try and get Taylor Swift on this platform here. Just get her on the podcast.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Next guest.
Are you a big Swiftie, Jeremy? Is that where
No. I like maybe one or two songs of hers, and that's it. I'm not a Taylor Swift person. Are you, Jeff?
No, but I don't like strongly dislike her. It's just not my thing. But there was definitely some jams when I was in high school, like Bad Blood and some of those other hits like that I'd still like to this day. But for the most part, definitely not gigantic fan. But don't judge anybody who is. But
if you guys ever come visit, I'll tell you, welcome to New York.
It's like that's. Are you talking about the song, or what do you mean? Or...
Welcome
I'm trying
to New York. It's waiting for you. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who sings that. Even I can't even think.
Her. It's Taylor Swift.
Oh wait, I don't know. I don't know that song. I thought you were talking about like
that one.
You know what? Welcome to New York.
I thought you meant like
waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Yeah.
Oh no! I thought you were talking about like the old like hip hop song that's like
with Jay-Z and
in New York.
Yeah.
Jungle Dreams Are Made Of.
Yeah.
No, not that.
That's Empire State of Mind.
Yeah, that one's also good, but that's also not the one I was thinking of. But I can't think of any of the words to the song I was thinking of.
The Frank Sinatra.
New York.
That's the only one I ever hear from like the Yankees or Mets fans is they'll like have that on their Twitter page. They'll play that every win.
Well, I mean every win Yankees play that. I don't think the Mets.
When I went to the Giants, which we established Mike was also there obviously last season. They played the freaking that song it's not Welcome to New York. It's like a Wall Street-esque song or like a money related song. It's like escaping my mind. I just had the jingle in my head a minute ago. But every time like they scored, they would play that.
Not money. It's not the.
Yes, I think it was that.
Is it the Apprentice song?
It was something like that. It was something like that. That was pride in my brain every time that Tommy Cutlets would score a touchdown, bewilderingly. But
it's the Apprentice song.
Gotcha. Well,
don't get me going on that one.
Yeah. Well, let's get.
Jeremy, you like my post though? You like my post?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I lost a lot of followers for that post.
It was fine. It was fine. All right, should we get into the Super Bowl preview here, gentlemen?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, so you got the Philadelphia Eagles, where me and Jeff are from, so we're surrounded by Eagle fans. So unless you got the pitchfork right at your house, Jeff, you're pretty much have to root for the Eagles there, of course. Then, of course, you got the Kansas City Chiefs, who are trying to be the first team in Super Bowl era to be the first team to get a three-peat, because that has happened, of course, in NFL history. The Packers have done it twice, and people who say that it never happened and you don't count the past history, I'm like, if you don't have that, the NFL doesn't exist today. So deal with that, NFL fans, is what I always have to say to them. But you got Jalen Hurts returning back. You got Patrick Mahomes tracks, a Super Bowl rematch that took place 2 years ago. Different team a little bit from both sides, I will say. You don't have, for the Eagles, they got new coordinators. That's the big thing. You don't have Jonathan Gannon there. You got Kellen Moore, who might be the next Saints head coach, looking very soon to be. A.J. Brown was there. You got Devontae Smith. They got Zach Bond. You got your new rookies, Mitchell and Cooper DeJean out there on the defensive side. So it's a bit new defensive scheme there out there for Eagles-wise. Chiefs, they got more veteran receivers. That's all they really got out there. They got more veteran receivers. They got George Karlaftis out there. They are still pretty good. Even all like the players that went away, they still got everybody together. So not much really has changed for the Chiefs wise of like roster and player and coach side. Whereas the Eagles have changed a little bit of their coaching at least and a bit of the player acquisition too. So that is a big difference. But what are you guys thinking about the Super Bowl? Is it going to be one of the most boring Super Bowl matches, or are we going to have an exciting one here?
No, I think it should be exciting. On a complete side note, just this is how my brain works. I thought of that song. It's not Money Money. It was the Back in the New York Groove is what I was talking about. The song that's like I'm back in the New York Groove, which is a banger. It's a banger of a song, and I like that song. But then now I hate it because I just heard it over and over and over again that night when we should not have heard it over and over and over again.
Now that you said that, I actually kind of remember that.
Yeah, no, it was really bothering me. It was one of those things where I was like, I could not put my finger on it. But back to the Super Bowl. No, I mean, I think it should be a pretty good game. Like both teams are, exciting. Obviously, the Chiefs kind of revealed last week that they were, holding back some offensive strategy and, the old adage of like they, slog through the regular season to kind of like hold all their punches until the playoffs. Like it did kind of truly feel that. Like sometimes I feel like that's more of a narrative than anything, but I do feel like it kind of did feel that way against the Bills. Like there was a lot of, unscouted looks per se, or just like, Mahomes being a lot more mobile. Maybe that was a product of the way that the Bills are playing defense, but you could also argue that they were, holding back some of that for that particular game, or just, the Super Bowl in general, which on a side note really got me thinking like Jordan Love being more mobile in games in general, which, we could obviously come back to that in a bit. It's like, that could unlock a lot. And I think that was a very big point of frustration, just like this whole season in general, was like why he was not, scrambling in certain situations, especially in the Eagles playoff game, which I'm sure you guys talked about at length last week. But nonetheless, no, I think it should be a good game. I'm not like, I know a lot of people, like maybe it's just the part of me that has a lot of friends that are Eagles fans that, they were talking a lot of junk after the wild card game and kind of like frustrated me to the point where I was like, don't make me root against you guys. Like, come on now. Like, I'm trying to be supportive. I'm trying to be a good spirit about this. But like, if you turn me into your, like, you make me, force me into a heel turn here, like I'll gladly take it and look for every outlet I can to talk smack back. But once we got through that, like divisional round where they were kind of feeling themselves a bit, and then showed some actual nervousness towards the NFC Championship game. But then, they ended up blowing the doors off the Commanders. You could say, like, obviously, the Commanders kind of let it slip through their fingertips, pun intended, obviously, because they had some outrageous fumbles that were, like, unforced in a way. Some of them were punched out, but just Commanders kind of imploded a bit. But, Eagles really showed out and looked like a dominant team, honestly. So, Chiefs are the Chiefs, and I think it should be a good game. It's like, on the surface, and it was a little boring that it's the same matchup that occurred 2 years ago. And like, we've obviously seen the Chiefs a ton. The Eagles have literally won a Super Bowl within the last 7 years, and also have been in the second one for the, their second time in the last 3 years. So basically what I'm saying is like, I understand people are over it, but I think objectively it should be a good game, like on paper, right? Like both teams are stacked.
Here's my thing real quick about the Super Bowl. It's two fan bases that couldn't be more undeserving, in my opinion. One, the Chiefs with, like it was just unfair at this point, becoming the Patriots dynasty times two, maybe even worse because Mahomes is younger. And two, it's the Eagles fan base, which sucks. But also they also
you want to break that down a little bit more, or just go with they suck.
I think
I'm just messing around.
I think that speaks for itself. I don't think I need to elaborate much.
I was just messing around.
Look, and the other thing was it was actually interesting this championship weekend because it was two fan bases that were actually deserving. The Bills, of course, or the new Packers, where they get to the
AFC Championship.
AFC Championship game and can't get anything done, or just mess up in the playoffs in general. Compared to the Commanders, which, of course, the old Redskin fans, now Commanders fans, haven't had much success in their livelihoods. I couldn't even tell you if the Commanders/Redskins have won a Super Bowl, which I think they probably have at some point, but I just don't know when.
1991.
I was gonna say 91, I think, right? Yeah.
You got prepared there, Jeremy. Did you do some research or something?
Oh, I have every Super Bowl champion in my head. Like, for example, with the Commanders making it to the NFC Championship, the Cowboys are the last team in the NFC to make a conference championship. So they are the last team now, and you can make more fun of them of being dead last. And the next year is the 49ers.
Wait, really? The only team in the NFL that hasn't made a conference championship game?
In the last 26 years, the Cowboys have not made an appearance to the NFC Championship game. And then for the Super Bowl wise, the 49ers are right after the Cowboys of not being able to win the Super Bowl in such a long time of distance wise for the narrow margin between the Cowboys and the 49ers, of course. But yeah, it is brutal for the Cowboys for that long time. But yeah,
but the Browns though.
Browns, they've never won the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era, of course. But I'm saying NFC wise. So for the
NFC, said just NFC.
Yeah, I was saying NFC wise, Mike, of just to make it a conference appearance for the Commanders. They didn't make one since '91, and the Cowboys are now dead last of teams of how the drought it's been since the teams made it to the NFC conference, and that's the Cowboys now.
Got it. So you're saying NFC? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously it would have been nice to see a rookie in this Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, and they didn't get it done. That's okay. The Bills, I'll be honest, I had some friends who were Bills fans, didn't really want them to succeed. So I didn't really
Oh, all right. Okay.
I thought you were going to go the other direction of you were kind of pulling for that.
I mean, I don't think they would want the Packers to succeed. So
that's
friendly banter there. Friendly banter.
That's fair.
Sorry, did I just go out? But
very good.
So yeah, of course, I don't think this is the Super Bowl that any of us wanted. I don't really know what the ideal Super Bowl would have been with the playoff slate for Packers fans. If it wasn't the Packers, it probably would be the Commanders in the NFC, and maybe I don't know. Pick your poison on the AFC, other than the Chiefs.
I mean, personally, I was far less interested in last year's Super Bowl, because I just really dislike the Niners at this point for all the hell they've given us over the last 12 to 14 years, and given that the Packers were in control of that game, the divisional round, and let it slip away in the last 5 to 7 minutes. So just my gut reaction is I'm far more compelled by this matchup than I am last year. Last year was the first time I can remember in a long time that I was just that cliche feeling of I don't even know if I want to watch, but of course, everybody says that, I don't even know if I'm going to watch it, but of course, it's a cultural, it's one of the last few things that we have in our society that everybody, for the most part, kind of comes together during and experiences at the same time. So last year it was this year versus last year is miles apart for me. Last year I was very much still had salty taste in my mouth from the divisional round and just hating the 49ers being over the Chiefs. But this year, maybe it's just the proximity of being, close to Philadelphia, and my friends being a little nicer over the last 2 weeks, and they've made me come around a bit. And also partially in my mind too, I'm hey, because literally I have them, I could quote them. They said this earlier in the week. They were if we win the Super Bowl this year, I kind of coaxed them into saying this. They were if we win the Super Bowl this year, we'll be good for the next 7 to 8 years. And I was you guys realize you just won a Super Bowl 6 seasons ago, right? And you're already, within a season or two back on the edge of your seat, and obviously wanting to be back in contention and get back to the Super Bowl. So part of me is their team is stacked. If they have Saquon, if they have most of their offense back, especially if Kellen Moore doesn't take the Saints job, they should be in the mix again next year. They could obviously make the Super Bowl again potentially next year. They're a formidable force essentially, but if they win it or if they lose it, there's the Super Bowl hangover either way. That sort of concept, I guess. So I guess what I'm saying is part of my mindset is like if they win it, I'm like, okay, you guys can now shut up and go off to the side and like let a new successor emerge next year, and like I won't feel bad. The other thing, like one other thing I mentioned on too, is that realistically, like I feel like the way the Eagles and Packers rosters are constructed, I feel like they're more so the Packers, honestly, just given how young they are. But in a way, the honeymoon phase is kind of over with that whole like youngest team in the league concept, where it's
Yep.
like they got to start proving it and like making it beyond the first playoff game or second playoff game they're in. Basically, what I was gonna say is like there could be a scenario in which the next 5 to 7 years, like the Eagles and Packers are like informal rivals, and like they end up meeting up in the playoffs, and there's like some epic games that occur over, divisional round, NFC championship, whatever it is. Like that could realistically play. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. Like obviously either team could regress. There could be major injuries to quarterbacks, whatever. But if it plays out where like Eagles and Packers are like neck and neck for like number one, number two seed for the next like 5 to 7 years, that could also be like a fun development where, hey, we'll get them back like, a couple times in the next 3 to 4 years, hopefully. Like I hope it plays out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry to go on a total side tangent, but that was just some thoughts I had there.
Mm-hmm.
No, not at all. Don't be sorry.
And we play them, they play at Lambeau this year, which would be amazing if that ends up being the Cheesehead TV meetup to merge the worlds of like having some of my college, because I've already started like floating out with my college buddies, like, hey, let's get a boys trip going to Lambeau Field, like, it's on their bucket list sort of thing. So it'd be awesome if that ends up being like the game that the Cheesehead TV meetup is, kind of kill two birds with one stone per se, but that in and of itself will probably be an incredible game next year. And then if they end up meeting again in the playoffs, like bring it on. Like let's get revenge,
Well,
that's right. We will be having them in Green Bay, and Packers will be back in New York. So maybe there'll be
yeah. I did see that.
More Tommy Cutlets songs.
Yeah. No, I usually I mean, like going to Packers games is honestly one of the best experiences I have. Like, and it is what it is. So it's like I don't necessarily mind like spending or whatever to go to a game at Lambeau and a game locally. But basically, what I'm saying is like next year, I was like, all right, if I had to pick one, probably get a boys trip going to Lambeau to go to the Eagles game. But knowing that they're playing at the Giants, it'll probably be a situation where I'm like, let's say that game's in like December or something. I'm like, all right, I won't go to that game. But then as it approaches, I'm like, go to a Packers, like. I can go for reasonable price and I drive 2 hours because the Giants are trash. Like absolutely, like I'm definitely going to do that on a whim and decide like the week before that I'm going. So basically, what I'm saying is more likely than not, I'm probably going to go to the Eagles and the Giants game next season.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think for me with this Super Bowl matchup, it's just like at the point of like you guys meant, like Mike was right, hit the nail on that. Nail on the wood there for the fan bases of like the Chiefs. Like it's just like annoying to see them because now they're the Patriots like 2.0 at this point, and like with social media nowadays, it makes like the Patriots like not feel like we don't hate the Patriots as much as we should. Back in the day of their dynasty, like because with the Chiefs now you got to deal with Patrick Mahomes, you got to deal with his family of just the annoyance from that. Then you also got to deal with Travis Kelce, you got to deal with Taylor Swift. Now Andy Reid, I mean I still like it, but like the commercials, like there's some people getting annoyed with like his commercials, and Patrick Mahomes has commercials, of course, and this is like, can the Chiefs dynasty just end at this point? But no, it's just going to keep going at this point because the Chiefs are just going to probably win at this rate. And then you got the Eagles side, the fan base. Well, me and Jeff just know the fan base too well, and just like they're passionate, but they're also annoying too. We can put that the best way. Now, I disagree with you, Jeff. Of like if they win the Super Bowl, I feel like they're going to even go way more of a.
No, that's what I told them.
Be
like, as soon as my friend said, like, literally my one friend was like, if we win a Super Bowl, I'm good for the next 7 to 8 years. And I was like, that's not true. Like, I know you're gonna be like back at it next season, if not the season after. Like, just calling for head coach's head and just whatever. But
yeah,
we'll let it play out.
I mean, with the Eagles, it's just like I feel like it's this way for us is if the Packers win the Super Bowl, we'd be chill to really win the Super Bowl. Obviously, we would want them to win like the Super Bowl this year, but like the Eagle fans, but like if you don't give me a Super Bowl ring, I'm jumping off the bridge, like something like that. To be like the Eagle fans, but do something sort of way. And the Eagle fans are just so annoying. The passionate, you obviously see that, but like it can be ridiculous with those Eagle fans. I get to put it that way.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think I see both sides though, where there's like I do appreciate the passion and like living in the city for a decade and experiencing some of the energy of like when they do it. It's twofold. Like when they win, it's amazing, but like when they lose, it's just like everybody wants to cut their heads off and just like not see another day. And it's like, all right, just everybody take a deep breath. It's not that big of a deal. But it is what it is. Across, like we said last time, across all sports, it's like that for the Sixers, it's like that for the Phillies. It's like very, very passionate fan base, like for better or for worse.
And there is rumors that the Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie might buy some stake in the Boston Celtics. So now you have not only Josh Harris.
What? I did not see that.
So now you would have only John Middleton, the owner of Phillies, to be the only owner, well, him and the people of Ed Snyder's family, to not hold any like stake in any other like annoying teams, because Josh Harris, not only does he own the Commanders, he owns the Devils as well, and he also owns the Sixers. He forced the Sixers social media page not to congratulate the Eagles for like when they beat the Commanders. He forced the social media page not to congratulate the Eagles for a bit, and then I finally saw a post yesterday. And yesterday they finally they acknowledged it of like congrats Eagles because AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, all the Eagles players showed up to the Lakers Sixers game last night. So that happened. But yeah, it would be definitely interesting if Jeffrey Lurie purchases stake in the Boston Celtics then. I mean, I'm not an Eagles fan personally, but like Lurie does that, and if I'm a Philly fan, I get annoyed about that. So then the only person I would have to deal with is like Middleton's the only best owner left for this Philly sports.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot to unpack there. I didn't know about the Josh Harris sanction on congratulating the Eagles. That's pretty absurd. But also, Lurie buying stake in the Celtics. That
Boston made it.
Okay, I mean, that okay. Like I sort of get that, but at the same time, I guess I just read him as like more Philly oriented or just more like loyal to Philly than like when Josh Harris bought the Commanders, I wasn't surprised. I guess is what I would say, right? But like, I'm genuinely shocked to hear that like Lurie is seeking a stake in the Celtics because like not only is it not Philadelphia, but that is literally like a bitter rival of the Sixers, right? So it's just like that's a bizarre territory to start to creep into where owners of rival cross league franchises. That's kind of weird.
To put in context for you Packer fans, for the Sixers way, it's the Celtics are the Packers, the Sixers are the Bears. It's brutal. It's just brutal out there.
Yeah. Except that the Bears were like competent and could like contend for a title and actually win a title. Like so it's you got to add that disclaimer where it's like basically like the Bears are like the younger brother, like 7-8 years old, who is 7-8 years younger, who like thinks he's tough and wants to like compete with the older brother, but like it's just kind of like hold his forehead and it's like, all right, like let's see if you could actually reach me and like out strengthen me a little bit for one time. But that's a good comparison. But the Bears are always going to be the Bears until they prove otherwise.
Exactly.
They haven't been relevant since we'll say 05, but more so 85. I would argue.
I mean, they also 2010 with the NCAA championship, but of course we took care of business because of PJ Rocky.
Yeah, even that thing felt like it was, running on fumes essentially. Like Jay Cutler at the helm. Like, come on now, that's going to implode in your face at some point. But I digress. But no, I mean, overall in the Super Bowl, I would say, like, it's I don't know. I think it should be a good game. Like, obviously not the most exciting matchup, or we're getting bored of both teams at this point, but it should be a good game. Like, you go back to the regular season too, and it's like they both had they were both towards the top of the conference the entire year, right? Like obviously the Lions fell off with injuries, so it's not. I guess what I'm saying is like not terribly surprising, right? You have the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, like more often than not, that's how it's going to play out. So it's not shocking, and it should be a good matchup. But we'll see what happens.
Definitely agree. I mean, that's the Super Bowl preview, and that's what we're gonna have to deal with out here is the Chiefs and the Eagles for that, but then to get into, because we talked a little bit, because we were just talking about
Should we
like other
do
teams. Go
should we
ahead,
do
Jeff.
quick gut predictions of like who we think's
Yeah,
gonna win or what the score's gonna be?
sure. Mike, you can start first.
I haven't said much.
You said Mike.
It's unlike me.
Hey, you look at talk a lot, and you were the moderator for the last time, pretty sure, when we had this, and when we had Joan on. So here's your moderator chance.
I actually want to go second. I'm gonna
All right,
change it.
fine. I'll go first then. I'll go bold here. I'm gonna go the Eagles by 10.
Oh, interesting. No score. You're just gonna say by 10. No score. No actual score prediction.
27-17. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I feel like it could be easily a 10-7 game, and I would not be shocked by that. I wouldn't be shocked by that, honestly. But I think the Eagles, my bold take is going to be Eagles by 10.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I think I'll go. You want to go second? You said, Mike. I guess I'll hold off.
No, you go. Actually, I want some more
No,
time.
I was gonna say I think I agree with you that I don't think it's gonna be near. What was it last time? Like 38, 35 or something like that, or like roughly. Like yeah, I don't think it's gonna be anything close to that sort of game. I definitely think it's gonna be lower scoring because the Eagles have tremendous defense now. At least compared to last time. So I won't go as bold as say Eagles by 10, but I would say Eagles by 4, and it's gonna be let's say 17-21. Eagles, I say.
Mike?
Okay. I was taking my time for a reason.
He certainly was.
So some people say that the Packers season was a love story, right? With Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that I think it's a good game. I think the Eagles keep it close, but I think the Chiefs take it out in the end. I'd say it's a score of 31-27.
Okay.
Chiefs.
So love hurts.
And I think on the Lombardi platform, when they're giving the trophy out, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift get engaged.
Oh no! I think you're gonna say
that's the last time the Chiefs ever win.
Ever win a Super Bowl?
Yeah. Not in history.
It was that shocking.
They
just never win another game ever.
Yeah, I think that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged after winning the Super Bowl gives the Chiefs dynasty a curse where they don't win again. I mean, come on.
Damn.
This can't keep
going.
that's
it. That's a good storyline. Obviously, I think a lot of people would be like repulsed at that happening in the moment, but then if it played out where it gave them a curse, I think they would look back and be like, "All right, that was great. I'm glad that happened, so that we, didn't have to witness the Chiefs."
I mean, here's the thing: if the Chiefs win and Travis Kelce doesn't get engaged to Taylor Swift after the Super Bowl, what is he doing? I mean, how long is it going to take?
So I feel like I can go. Oh, so you're just saying what does he do in like relationship wise? I was going to say
what's taking so long? I mean, they're not young, right? I mean, they've been together for what, 3 years now?
Oh, it's
theoretically, I think it's like two-ish.
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
I will say I kind of like it overall. I will say that I hope not. I shouldn't say I hope, but like logically, what may be coupled with that is a Kelce impromptu retirement announcement amidst that, where he just says, "Hey, I'm going out on top, three-peat. I found my wife of the future. I'm starting a new chapter," and he just announces his retirement on the spot too. That would be the trifecta: Chiefs win, engagement, Kelce retirement.
Andy Reid maybe go. Andy Reid bye-bye, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. Where's he going? Retirement? Is that
yeah, retirement. He goes to work McDonald's and gets a cheeseburger.
I was gonna say when you were saying that earlier you referenced people getting sick of Andy Reid commercials. I was curious. Like the only one I really feel like I've seen him in is like the State Farm with like the Nuggets, where he's like stealing the Nuggets from Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, I think that's pretty funny. But like I personally haven't noticed him in a ton and like felt annoyed by him.
The fumble risky,
Oh yeah, that one's a little overdrawn, I will say. Yes, like he says it like seven
Yeah.
times with a crazy look on it. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
The one where it was funny at the time, but then it's kind of old, where he draws the mustache on the flight, like where he does the airplane and he draws like on other players and did Mahomes.
I don't know if I ever saw that one, honestly.
There's that one, and then the other one was like the chefs where they're doing the field and he messes up the field and everything. That one's like, okay, it was funny for a hot second. I'm like, okay, we need to move on here, people.
Gotcha. No, that's totally fair. I forgot about the fumble risky one. Yeah, that one's like if he said it like once, it'd be cool, but like yeah, it just gets a little overdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, two other just questions or things I want to bring up quick before we transition to our next topic. So one of the podcasts I've been recently listening to is I don't know if you guys are familiar with Katie Nolan, but she has a new podcast called Casuals, which she was formerly like had her own podcast and then she was on ESPN and they kind of took like a hiatus for 2 years. She has a new podcast called Casuals, where the idea is like she's generally more of like a comedic background, I would say, like kind of like a light topic, like funny background. So she doesn't try to get too serious with like deep analytics or like dissecting the game. Like she has like comedians or celebrities on and they just kind of talk about their fandom and stuff like that. But she ultimately like, and she started like this podcast just debuted like 2 weeks ago, and she starts everyone with something she calls the Yap, where she just like rants about something that's like on her mind or sports related. And it just when you were talking about the commercials, it reminded me of something that she on this most recent episode she was going off about that I totally agreed with, where she was saying during the conference championship there was commercials that some of them were essentially like teasers or previews of Super Bowl commercials. So she was basically like, we've gotten to the point where we're doing ads for ads, basically. Like during the conference championship round, we're teasing ads for ads that are upcoming. And the most notable one, which has a Packers cross section here, obviously, was that Uber Eats commercial with Matthew McConaughey doing the Dicka impressions,
Yep.
where she was specifically ranting about that one, and I felt it was so relatable to me because one, I saw that commercial myself, and I think my wife was like out of the room at the time. It might have been like it was during like the Eagles game, and then it was also played during the Chiefs Bills game too. But the first time I saw it, I was like, I also had that thought where I was like, first of all, this is like clearly a teaser for a Super Bowl ad, which is bizarre, right? Like to be like previewing an ad for an ad. But also it goes on so long. Like he does like 30 renditions of that Dicka impression to the point where it's like way too long and just like painful by the end. And then the first time my wife watched it, no context, I didn't say anything to her. By the fifth time McConaughey was trying to do the Dick impression, she just turned to me and she was like, "What is this? Like, why is it going on so long? Like, can you like make it stop? Turn the what is going on right now?" So I'm just curious if you guys had that same feeling, like seeing some of those commercials, in particular that Matthew McConaughey one. Don't get me wrong, I love Matthew McConaughey, but that commercial, I was just like, man, what are you like? You are selling out for every dollar you can get right now if you're doing this garbage.
It's just gotten to the point of like, there's not that many good Super Bowl commercials there anymore, and like at this point, you might as well just give a trailer out because you just like you don't know what to expect from people. Because I do know because I saw on the Sports Business Journal today, and I was reading it, a commercial cost this year for like 30-second ad is $8 million for just a 30-second commercial.
Yeah, it's insane. Which I also have like a dual reaction where I'm like, that sounds insane, but at the same time, for these massive corporations, like
Yeah.
$8 million for the exposure they're getting is like not that much, to be honest. So it's like it sounds like a crazy amount, but it's like the companies that are buying these ads are like not really. It's like a drop in the bucket for them per se, right? So it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I was just curious. Like Mike, did you see that McConaughey like Dicka commercial? And you didn't notice that one? You didn't see it? I was just curious because it's way too long.
When is this? Sorry.
It was during the conference championships. It's like an Uber.
I wasn't really paying attention to the commercials during the conference championship. I'll be honest. I was hardly paying attention to the game.
You're not a commercial fan.
No, it's totally fair, but like naturally,
I gotta be honest. I wasn't a huge football fan this year, other than the Packers. Even the Packers have missed a lot of games. I was not myself this year. I need to pick it up. Yeah.
Hey, did you say you were focused on yourself? Is that you said?
That wasn't myself. No, that
Oh,
was
was
my
it?
old
Gotcha,
self.
gotcha.
I was focused on other
Gotcha.
things in my life. Yeah,
That's fair.
I gotta be honest.
Okay.
You know, but I did have a great time in Green Bay, and Chicago. So that was
There
a
you
fun
go.
part of this season. But look, I've never missed a game in many seasons, and this season I missed a lot of games. I'm kind of disappointed in myself in that. I'll be honest.
There's other things brewing. There's change on the
There
horizon.
is. There is a lot of change. You know, we were talking before the episode. Jeremy is coming to the end of his college career. Jeff's starting a new chapter as a influencer. Maybe we'll see if he's starting off with PackReacts, but we'll see if And I'm moving jobs and other changes in my life. So it's a time of change for everybody. In the NFL, it's a time of change. If we look at the new teams that are coming up, with the Commanders, the Texans, everything else. So, but then there's this.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say last quick thing on the Super Bowl topic. I was just gonna say, because Jeremy, you mentioned Radio Row is like one of your favorite aspects of the NFL experience, Super Bowl experience. So I was gonna ask just both of you guys, like, top 3 podcasts that, like, if you were to be at Radio Row, that you're excited, or like you would be excited to see or want to see, like in your rotation, like
where I'd want to see,
you listen to, like if you were to be at Radio Row, or like basically what I'm asking is like what's your top 3 like NFL podcasts? Basically, it doesn't have to be, obviously I'm assuming 1 or 2 of them is going to be podcast or Packers related, but it could also just be broad NFL. So it's just like who you would.
PackReacts.
That could be all of our shoe-in. But what would be your quick, just like 3 podcasts you'd be like pumped to like go just like see the individuals like recording it and like potentially meet them or whatever?
Jerry, you go first.
I think the Pat McAfee show has to be up there for me. I definitely that is a fun cast. Like, I don't watch it that much, but it's just a fun cast. When Pat's on, you get to see AJ Hawkins. It's kind of a comedy session, so I like that. That is what I would do.
The Nick Sirianni bit they did that I can't remember that Ty, because he's a Packers fan.
Ty Smith, right? He's a Packers fan.
That Nick Sirianni interview bit that he did this past week. I don't know if you guys saw that. Absolutely, like I was dying. That was hilarious. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that one I wouldn't do the Kelsey one. Like, the Kelsey podcast is just not my thing. I'm sorry, it's just not. I probably would want.
I don't listen to it either.
What about Jason Kelsey's wife's podcast?
Heck no, I'm not. I don't listen to any Kelsey podcast. That's just me. Not Kylie Kelsey, not Jason, not their new Friday night show on ESPN. No, no Kelsey for me.
What about the Manningcast?
Ooh, I would do the Manningcast, but that's not really a podcast. That's just more of like a live game stream. But like, yeah, I would do that. Yeah, I think I would do Tom Grossi. I would have to do him. She's at TV has to be up there for me. NFL Network, just in general, that is like the peak of everything. Of like, you get everyone from everywhere. That one's pretty awesome.
Big NFL Insiders guy, like Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, and I like that show. I like that show. Yeah,
I would like them. Good Morning Football, I like them.
We're only going 3 here, but you could rattle out 7 if you want.
I'll wrap it up. First Take, no. The only way I would go on is just like, Shannon, you're with me, and Stephen A, I'm against you off every topic you have, because I just can't stand him.
Yeah, but he's like a Broadway performer at this point. Like, he's not, like, he probably doesn't believe half the stuff he's saying, honestly. It's just he's a performative artist.
It's ridiculous too, because he's about up for his contract with ESPN. He's demanding to be like the top highest paid guy ever of like a media person, which is ridiculous. He's like trying to command like so many like gajillion millions of dollars just to get. He wants to get paid like a flight. Yeah, he wants to get paid like an NFL player or like an MLB player, just to be on the show, which is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But I also think he's entertaining in some ways. But
yeah.
So that was your top 9 to 12, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Like, what would be basically, like, or just podcasts you listen to, or like regularly, based on what I'm asking.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I really don't listen to many anymore.
That's fair. That's fair.
Fine.
But no, obviously I watch like Cheesehead TV, the
Pack a Day
Packers one, right?
podcast.
Andy Herman. Again, this year I kind of focused on our podcast when we had it on, and focused
that's
on
one of our
my
options.
career, my life, and dating too. But here's one thing I'll say on this, right? I would say probably Tom Gross is the answer because
There we go.
Tom's great. Although Tom apparently went off Twitter this week, which don't know if I agree with that one. But
Oh, I missed that. Oh, you're
Yeah,
saying like gotcha.
he's
Like
boycotting Twitter.
leaving.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I see.
But no, I love Tom, so I would do that. But look, I'm not really a big national podcast guy. Obviously, I watched Pat McAfee, especially when Rodgers was on it back when Rodgers on the Packers. So McAfee was one I watched more than others. But I'm not one of these fanboys when it comes to some of these podcasts. But what I will say, and it's something that this is something I'm very, very into.
Okay.
And again, I'm not trying to get political on us, but I don't know if you noticed the first what do you call it, White House press secretary conference of the new administration was the other day, and they have this new policy where there's 2 seats right in the front that is dedicated not for paying legacy media members, but new media members, where you have to the seat's free, but you have to pay to get your way to the White House. You have to what do you call it? Obviously, pass a background check to get to the White House, but you have to show that you have some kind of media outlet, like on YouTube or Twitter or something, right? That you wouldn't normally get a seat at the table for a conference like that, right? Because you weren't part of CNN, Fox News, some of these other things. But they're giving people that are normal podcast people like us the opportunity to get a seat at the table. So what I'm trying to say is you brought up Radio Row and some things like that. What would be great and what I would love to see, and something I'd be really interested in going to if they were to do this, is give small creators like us or other people that aren't have the money to pay for something like that, because I'm sure that's not free. And even if it is free, you have to get the media credential, which I'm assuming that process is not free, right?
Yep.
An opportunity to get their show out. And we've been saying this before, like, why doesn't the Packers allow these people into their media room and have an opportunity to do that? And I think it's an NFL policy, but I would really love to see the NFL embrace some of the new media like us, right? Because you saw how that affected, something like the U.S. election. Again, forget about people's politics. It affected the U.S. election. So the fact that this is also affecting the Super Bowl, the NFL viewership, how people talk about their team, I'd love to see from an official capacity, people get a seat at the table to ask questions and be in a capacity like that without necessarily going the formal route of, Green Bay Press Gazette, ESPN. Like, we don't need to be in suits to get in that room. You need to just have passion for the team, care about it, build a following, work hard, and you could get in. And that's what I would love to see. So, look, it's not a great answer in terms of a specific podcast or anything, but I think it's really important that the NFL embraces some of this stuff. And it's good that I think that the government is embracing this. Even if it's just a soundbite, it's a good soundbite, and it's something that allows the common folk to get a seat at the table, which isn't what happens normally. Normally, those big decisions and big questioning happens at the that's gatekeeped, right? Let's not gatekeep that kind of stuff. Let's allow people that work hard, that do this on their own and build their own following, a seat at the big boy table.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I didn't know about that. I think that's wonderful in theory. I will say, a little bit tongue in cheek, I'm curious how long one of those seats that's taken up at the White House, that one of those shows has anything critical to say about the current administration, how quickly their media credentials get pulled and that seat is swapped out. But if that doesn't occur, then that's wonderful. But we'll see what the process is to get individuals into that seat, is what I'll say. But
although I will say, though, I think it's revolving. I don't think, like, if you get in that seat, it's not like you have that seat all the time, right? Like, I think you get it one shot and then that's it, right? Like,
gotcha.
I mean, otherwise it would only be 2. So it's a revolving seat, right? So same thing here.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I think that's wonderful. I did not know about that. It's just like as long as there's open mindedness to, some constructive opinions and there's authenticity involved, and that's wonderful. Yeah, and I agree with you at like the Radio Row too. But clearly I listen to the most podcasts out of all of us because I have a clear no, but it's more just I think it speaks more to just like personal habit too. Like I tend to try to go like on a morning walk and stuff like that with my dog. So it's like that's like an easy hour at least
Yeah.
that I can have like a routine. So it just has to do with like routine and like whether you drive or walk or do stuff around the house and pop your AirPods in and listen to a podcast or whatever. But just to quickly give my three and move on here would be definitely Pack a Day. I mean, I don't think Andy Herman's going to be there. Like, I don't think he's like their shows
Yeah.
to that point where they're going to be there. But I would just seems like a really chill dude that is relatable and like I said, I think it was before we joined the show. Like, just one of the most like level-headed, like reasonable, like doesn't lean into like the hot takes and like trying to like engagement farm on social media and stuff. Just like has like honest opinions of like what he's thinking in the moment. And I really respect that. Would just love to like have a beer with the guy, sort of thing. But then the other two that are more national would be the Ringer NFL show, specifically because I don't know if you guys know Sheil Kapadia. Like, love that guy. Just seems like like he's more of like a Philly. Started out like Philly centric kind of writer per se, or like beat writer. But just very like I would say, like just to go on a little tangent here is like I think what's really annoying in the social media space or like podcasts in general is when anybody, whether it's a former player, analyst, seven-time Super Bowl, whatever it is, speaks in absolutes, like on any topic, and speaks like they know the clear-cut right answer and put down like some decision of like a GM or a team
Yeah.
or Roger or whoever it is, and speaks like with hubris, like they know what should have been done, and like it's so obvious like what should be done or what should have been done. That immediately turns me off and just is like, okay, you have a worldview that like you're not operating with an open mind and like
Yeah.
open to other ideas and like admitting when you're wrong and all. And I just feel like there's a lot of gravitation in social media to like defending your priors and like trying to win the argument per se versus like just trying to have a constructive, productive conversation that allows like multiple input from all different voices and things like that. So I just shout out to Shield for just being like another reasonable, like just clear-minded guy that's open to admitting when he's wrong and raising his hand and saying he's wrong. And then the third would be someone who's I believe universally adored would be like Mina Kimes. Like her podcast is
Yeah.
just has a lot of great guests. Like she's obviously
She's
great,
good.
has more of like a statistical kind of leading analysis, but is also somebody who's willing to admit she's wrong too and not, just root into like opinions and like defend at all costs. So yeah, just kind of wanted to
Nice.
more so gauge if you guys have podcasts in your rotation, but I understand, there's different flavors of life. And Mike, even though this year was kind of a growth year for you, I'm sure a year or two from now, you might be in a position where you're taking, an hour or two walk every morning and, walking a dog and you're listening to a podcast. So just,
I need to come up with some better routines than just waking up and going to work. That's something I'm working on this year. That's one of the, I'm trying to get some better routines. But
yeah, totally fair.
One thing that it's a little bit of breaking news. It's actually sad news. It has nothing to do with football. Do you guys want to hear about it or?
Oh, nothing to do with football.
Yeah, nothing to do with football. I just looked on Twitter. Apparently, a American Airlines flight that could hold up to like 60, 70 people collided with a helicopter in D.C. and crashed.
Oh no,
that's crazy.
So prayers out to anybody that could be affected, but that's pretty crazy. I've never really heard of anything like that in a long time. So, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna be a good Super Bowl, guys. I think it's something that's exciting to watch. And then it's the off season, and then we got the free agency, and then the draft coming up. So I'm sure we'll talk about the draft in a bigger episode with John and maybe some other people. But Jeff, you going to the draft? Is that confirmed?
No, so I know I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I was like floating the idea in my fun employment era per se, where I'm open to traveling and kind of do whatever I want per se. But no, I think for various reasons I think I landed on not going to the draft. But what I think I'm gonna do is go to training camp because I've never experienced that. I know Mike, like we've talked about you going, and like Jeremy, I assume you've probably gone before.
No, I have not gone.
But Oh, you have not gone? Okay, gotcha.
No, I've
So
not
yeah,
gone.
like yeah, so I think I just decided again mentioning that like I'm probably going to go to the Eagles game, probably going to go to the Giants game in New York, like trying to be reasonable and not spend $5,000 this year on Packers journeys per se. So more
Mhm.
kind of trying to narrow it down. But yeah, I ended up deciding I'm probably not going to go to that, but I think I'm going to prioritize like going to training camp for
Mhm.
try to go out to Green Bay for like 3 to 4 days and hopefully have it be one of the times where they do like a joint practice and then have like a preseason game at home. But I know, you're going, Mike, which obviously, it sounds like an incredible experience for sure. Like first time it's ever in Green Bay. And, who knows the next time it will be. Just being at the draft in general, like obviously probably a very cool and unique experience. Although I think like for what I'd have to guess, I feel like the draft itself is probably not the most like exciting experience, like being at it like during the draft because you're probably gonna find out like 20 minutes ahead of time, like who the pick is and stuff like that
Yeah.
before it's announced there. But I'm assuming like just, the environment and like the events leading up to it and the fact that it's in Green Bay, like absolutely like really cool once in a lifetime sort of experience. So yeah, I ultimately don't think I'm gonna go, but I know you are going, Mike. So
That's the
maybe
plan.
what's your
That's the plan. Yeah, I actually don't have a flight yet. I have my hotel, but
oh
I
yes.
think I'm gonna go.
I was
Okay.
gonna say because I think I was asking you like you don't obviously you got to do flight, your normal like kind of accommodations and stuff, but it's like it's not like you have to like buy a ticket to go to
Well,
be at the first round or anything, right? You just kind of like show up, or I don't even know how it
so
works, honestly.
so I've been to the draft a lot actually. I
Oh,
went a
you've
bunch
been
when it
to
was yeah, I've been to a lot of drafts. I went a
gotcha.
bunch when it was in New York, Radio City. And I went to the one in Philadelphia. And that's it. Um, but yeah, so usually what happens is if you want to sit in the like actual stage area,
Hmm.
and in order to get into Radio City back in the day when it was inside, you need to get like a free ticket, and that was like through a website called One Iota. I don't know if they still use that website or if there's another website that they use. Like I said, I haven't been since the Philadelphia one. It definitely was with that website in Philadelphia, but it wasn't as I don't know if it was exclusively through there in Philadelphia. It definitely was exclusively there when it was in Radio City. Although in Radio City on the first night, it was very hard to get tickets to the first night. You really couldn't even get it through that One Iota website. So uh, Philadelphia was you were able to get it. Now I haven't checked in the years that I wasn't able to go. I should probably check for Green Bay. I haven't honestly looked into it, but of course, in order to get into like the NFL, the draft experience, similar to the NFL experience Jeremy was mentioning for the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
that's just open to the public. But yeah, um, it should be a good time hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think at the very least, like just be any reason to be in Green Bay, in my opinion, is like going to be an awesome time. Like just amazing environment. So first
Mhm.
draft over there should definitely
Yeah.
be a great time.
Agree.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to our last topic here real quick, which is going to be the off season. But before I get to that, I'm going to mention one podcast because I forgot to mention it, Jeff. One non-sports podcast I listen to is Colin and Samir, which is pretty much just interviewing content creators. Like I just watched Mr. Beast's video today. They interviewed Dude Perfect, and they interview all of these content creators of just getting their background, like what is their goal and how they measure like YouTube and podcasts themselves. So that is one non-sports podcast I like listening to. But then to get to the off-season, of course, I'm going to start with you, Jeff, just to get off because you're the guest, and Mike, we've heard your opinions as the Packers GM. But if you're Brian Gutekunst today, Jeff, what moves are you making? Because you got Ben Johnson now, the head coach of the Bears. You got defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator leaving the Lions. So you got Dan Campbell out there. You got Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores still there. Matt LaFleur still. You didn't lose anybody personnel-wise, really at all. So if you're Brian Gutekunst, what are you doing?
So I'm going to answer first just based on who am I most worried about in the division based on the circumstances that you just laid out.
Okay.
So even though Ben Johnson went to the Bears, which I think he's a phenomenal coach, the Bears literally this past season is the last time that I was like a little nervous where I was like, okay, they got Caleb Williams, Eberflus, potentially could be a decent coach like in his I think it was a second or third year. Can't
Yeah.
remember. Second year, I think. That was the last time I ever fell for the mirage of the Bears. It's like until they prove otherwise, they're gonna trip over their own 2 feet, and I'm not concerned about them. So it's like just cast them aside and pretend like the division is literally a 3-team division of the Vikings, Lions, and Packers. So with that said, I would say that I'm like the Vikings because of the continuity, and they're not. I mean, I know they have a lot of older free agents, but they'll probably get a decent amount of them back. They'll obviously draft good talent. So I think with the Lions losing both of their coordinators, and then I can't remember who specifically it was, but somebody I was listening to on a podcast made a good point that it's not just the coordinators that are leaving, right? Like there's going to be also like a bigger footprint of they're probably going to poach some of the assistant coaches and elevate their roles to their new jobs. And they're also probably going to sway some of their free agents to go and like start kind of a new chapter with their new teams, right? So there's going to be, it's not like just losing both of your coordinators is bad enough per se of like having a step back and like a big impact, but also having like some significant free agents potentially swayed to go elsewhere and some critical assistant coaches swayed to go elsewhere. I don't see how the Lions don't take a significant step back. I'm not saying they're going to be like a 7-win team or anything like that, but I don't know. I think they're going to at least take a kind of a growing year before they're like I don't see them being like in the hunt for the number 1 seed again next year, right? So given that context, I feel like the division is obviously still going to be strong. The Vikings are probably going to be a formidable foe because they way exceeded expectations this year. It's just not quite as intimidating as I feel like some people are painting it out to be. Like said, like the Bears are until they prove otherwise, not gonna be that scary. And then Lions will take a step back, and Vikings are like the real threat per se. So probably might be a little bit of arrogance, but I feel like the Packers are primed to like kind of like shoot through all of that and like get back up to the top of the division. Just generally, that's my very like summarized, just kind of gut feeling. But to answer your question about what moves to make, I mean, I think the clear areas of impact that are needed would be edge rush, cornerback, depending on what happens with Jair Alexander. I mean, it seems all signs are pointing to parting ways. Whether that's a release, a trade, if they get something of I'm not expecting anything of significance because most teams probably know that he's going to be walking, or know that they're going to part ways. So I mean, even if they do somehow keep him, like that's still going to be an area of need. You're going to have Valentine and Nixon on the outside, which are fine, but they're not superstar players by any means. I would say edge rush, cornerback, and then I guess the next things I would consider would be like wide receiver and probably offensive line. But you don't like offensive line is still really solid. Jordan Morgan is a variable in the mix that he could be a stud. Who knows, right? Like let's just let that play out. For half of the season next season. It's definitely not an area of weakness. Like I know that they kind of got exposed a bit against the Eagles, but I think that was more just like a bad game by Zach Tom, and Alden Jenkins got hurt, the third play of the game or something like that. So that obviously threw a wrinkle and everything. So overall, I think the roster is in a very good spot. I think pass rush and cornerback are probably the two biggest areas of need. But even that, you could argue, they obviously fired the defensive line coach, and based on everything that LaFleur and Gutekunst kind of said in the end of season pressers, it seems like the vibe I was getting is that they seem like they're not disappointed with the players as much as they were disappointed with like their progression, which leads more towards like coaching. Obviously coaches are only going to have so much of an impact, but I guess what I'm saying is like they get a better coach in there. Like I don't, Max Crosby or something like that would obviously be an incredible pipe dream, but like that's seeming less and less likely that's going to happen. I've seen, people saying Khalil Mack, something like that could happen where it's like a kind of a veteran free agent signing. That would be fantastic. I think that would be more of a perfect kind of Packers-esque move where they don't, give up a ton of resources for somebody. If they did go all in and go for Max Crosby, that would be great. Like that would be amazing. But basically, I guess bottom line, what I'm saying is like I think there'll be a significant move. If I had a gut check, I would say significant move either at defensive end or wide receiver. And that significant move could be re-signing Devontae Adams, right? Like having a reunion with Devontae Adams potentially. I think that would be kind of an out of character big move. I'm not expecting them to like pay him a top of the market contract, but to bring back an aging player and pay him significant money and take away snaps from a relatively young room, like that would be a sort of out of character Packers move that would signify to me that they're actually putting the chips in the middle of the table and kind of going in for it, right? Which is what Gutekunst mentioned. Like they should start making moves towards being a Super Bowl contender essentially, or like winning a Super Bowl. So long-winded way of saying it, like cornerback and defensive end are definitely the biggest needs. But if there was to be a major move of some sort, I think it's probably going to be defensive end, I would guess. But even then, I don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is like probably don't get our hopes up. Like I don't think there's going to be some like game-breaking like like trading a first and a second round pick for like some superstar or something like that. Like I don't really know if that's in the mix or that's going to happen, but that would be incredible, especially with the draft being in Green Bay. There's all, the narrative about like they're not going to trade away their first round pick. But at the same time, if they do announce that trade and it ends up being like Max Crosby or somebody like that, like everybody's going to be thrilled with that. Nobody's going to be like, oh man, I wanted to see them read the name of some player, in the first round in Green Bay. Like who the hell's going to care at that point? So
exactly.
Yeah, I would say if there's going to be some significant, home run swing, it's probably going to be at cornerback and defensive end is what I would say. But I don't know. I've gotten to the point as I've gotten older where it's like, I sort of just trust the team to like do what they think is best. Like everything's a dice roll. Like nobody, like there's no blueprint to like a perfect team or a Super Bowl, right? Like that's obvious. So it's like, if they decide to make an aggressive move for a defensive end and then they draft, a couple cornerbacks in the first 2 to 3 rounds, like I'll be content with that and I'll believe that's what they need. But I would say those are the areas. Definitely cornerback and defensive end, and then potentially wide receiver, depending on how quick Watson can come back and some other variables of like, is Romeo Dobbs able to continue, his career at this point? Like there's that's a huge thing where it's like he could be in a very bad spot. Nobody really knows, or he could be fine for next year. So it's like wide receiver could be like a bit of a bit more of a need, but I expect they'll add, probably maybe a second rounder, probably a third, fourth rounder sort of thing and bolster that room. So I think, to expand your question a bit of like how I'm feeling going into next year.
Yeah.
I would summarize it as like the honeymoon phase is over kind of like Jordan Love and like the youngest team in the league. Like they've done it, in my opinion. I think they've done a great job. Like, I mean, Jordan Love's first year, 2023, like first half of the year was brutal. I think we were all pulling our hair out. Like, is this going the right direction? Like, is he the guy? Like everybody's questioning Matt LaFleur at that point. Like that was definitely a mess. Rounded up beautifully where they went on that playoff run. You could argue this past year there was like expectations that were not met to an extent, but at the same time, like I truly feel that Jordan was not healthy the entire season, right? He started the year with a potential season-ending injury and came back in 4 weeks, I believe, 3 weeks or something like that. Like probably rushed back, but then he had the groin. Like he was not right the entire year, and they were just obviously just doing the NFL thing of just like grinding through, and like he was trying to be a tough guy and all that sort of stuff. But you could tell he was not himself. So I think this year is like the first year of the Jordan Love era that I'm like, okay, like this is where they need to make a push and make a run to be in that 1 to 2 seed range. And if they fall short of that, then I'll start questioning, is Jordan Love the guy? Like, is Matt LaFleur too conservative? Yada, yada. Like all those narratives can run wild after this season, but like let's just see how this season plays out, especially with the cap situation. I feel like that is a significantly under discussed thing and overlooked thing, that they were not in a great spot the last 2 years because of the Rodgers trade and a lot of the veterans that they signed and go all in like 2020 to 2022 range. So this is the first year that they have some money to work with.
Yep.
Jordan Love's entering his third year as the starter. There's changes on the coaching staff. Like, I'm very optimistic heading into the season, but if they end up, the 6 or 7 seed again and flame out in the wild card round, then I'm going to start asking some serious questions is kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I agree there. The Packers, just to give you a little, because I'm not too great with the cap space, but I do know the Packers can free up another like 10, 15 million with restructuring with Jair or Kenny Clark, because there's rumors of Kenny Clark. He might be done just because of like his production. You didn't see the sacks, is what most people overlook, but when you look at the run stuffer, he was a big part of that. So you might see.
I was gonna say, not to interrupt, but like, there's no way Kenny Clark is gone.
I think this upcoming next season is his last season. That was my best guess.
Gotcha.
That's what I would say for Kenny. But Jair, I mean, like the Jair situation is like, to make it stay healthy, we would love him. But then if you get rid of him, like what are you going to do about it? Because you have almost nobody behind there. Like, you got Keyshawn Nixon. At best, he's a number 2 corner. You got Valentine. Okay, he's nice. But after that, you got really nobody, and you got to invest heavily on free agency or the draft. Like last year, I didn't mind Jordan Morgan. I like himself, but the pick I would have preferred secondary, and they really didn't address secondary in the draft at all, which concerned me a little bit. I mean, you did get Xavier McKinney, but I'm saying like CB wise, they didn't address that, so that was my big issue there. So, but I know Mike was discussing last time we were on with John of his big trade idea, which was trading Jair to the Jets for Garrett Wilson because they're both the same commodity, and I compared it to the James Harden Ben Simmons trade of like same 2 knuckleheads, put them together, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean that would be that would be amazing, but I don't think that makes sense for the Jets, right? Like Garrett Wilson
No.
he's a stud. Like he's proven enough at this point, and so has Jair. Don't get me wrong, but the last 2 to 3 years he's played around 50% of games, right? And like I've seen a couple of people point back to I can't remember what season it was. It might have been like 2021. I think it was the Steelers game where he had that shoulder injury.
Yes.
I believe it was 2021. And there's a lot of people that have gone back and looked at his stats since then and kind of argued that like separate of him missing half the games, he wasn't even as nearly as impactful as a player as he was before that significant shoulder injury. So it's kind of like given all of that plus people like teams knowing that the Packers are most likely going to release him or move on, like it would have to be like there's no way there would be like a Jair for Wilson's trade straight up. It would they would have to throw like a second round pick in the mix at least, I would think, right? Which at that point it's like at that point I would rather them, assuming the Jets release Devontae Adams, I would much rather them just sign Devontae Adams or something like that, right? I would rather not give up like draft assets and other. I mean, if it could be Jair for Garrett Wilson, don't get me wrong, I take that all day, but I don't think that's going to happen, right? So, if we're talking aggressive move for wide receiver, I personally don't buy into the narrative of like them needing to get like a young number one wide receiver. I think if they bring in Devontae Adams, he could also because I still truly believe in like Jaden Reed is an absolute stud, right? He showed that the first half of the year. He showed that his rookie season. I don't know what the hell happened the second half of the year. I don't know if that was like more of the design of the offense or him just like losing confidence or whatever. But I believe he is still a stud and will be a stud. You could argue Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs like haven't lived up to their potential, but you bring in somebody like Devontae Adams, that is not only giving you the production on the field, but you have to think like knowing how much of a technician and just like good leader he is, he's going to have a locker room mentoring impact on those other receivers that he could very easily get them to be their best selves, right? And like have like a multiplying effect. So that's personally wide receiver wise, I would rather them draft somebody, second, third round, and then bring Devontae Adams back. That would be like my dream for the wide receiver, being addressed this offseason, in my opinion.
I think what you're saying is sorry, I haven't said it in a while, but I was thinking about what we were saying last time, Jeremy, and I don't know if you were on, but I think what I was saying last time, and it sounds like what you're saying too, Jeff, is that we don't really need youth in that room. We need leadership, and I think that's what we're lacking. We're lacking the veteran presence, someone that's been around that could kind of mold the young guys into what we need them to be and kind of show them the way, but not necessarily have the talent or long-term longevity that the younger guys are going to have. So I totally agree. Yeah, it's one of those things where this team has a lot of potential, and it's the youngest team in the league. And, we just need some, I think, mentorship or some kind of experience to mold them into what they ultimately can be. Because I agree, Jaden Reed is my guy, and he fell off in the second half of the year. I'm not really sure what happened. But it's unfortunate. It's something that you should definitely give him grace for because he's a really good player, and he's going to, really succeed in his career. but it's something that I think maybe having some veteran leadership is the missing piece that could really bring that room and help them gel moving forward, especially since Christian Watson is going to be out for at least half the season next year.
Yeah.
I think they definitely need some veteran leadership there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because it's like even if you look at Jaden Reed, like once, I mean, obviously Watson was out for the Eagles playoff game, but like once Dobbs went out, I feel like Reed, like once he knew he was like the guy, like he started popping off and he had a couple huge plays that kept them in that game, right? And like Josh Jacobs obviously like took it over. Jordan didn't have his best game, but like we've seen enough of Jaden Reed being that guy that I think he can get there. And it's again, I don't know if it's a matter like part of me is like, is there too many cooks in the kitchen, right? With like all the wet, like Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, like Luke Musgrave back in the mix, like Wicks, Reed, Dobbs. It's almost like too many options, right? Where it's like it's kind of like a conundrum, right? Because you like Gutekunst said himself, like he truly doesn't believe having a number one wide receiver is the most effective formula to win a championship. Because when you look, over the last 10 years, like teams that have had a bona fide number one team, defenses in the playoffs will look to shut that down and then they don't have enough answers, right? So it's kind of like, do you have like a 1A and 1B and then you have role players, or do you have elite role players who like on any given week you could feature anybody? It's like it's hard to know what the right answer is, but it's like basically my overall point is like I think they have enough for the most part right now. I think the team as a whole could use like 1 to 2 more stars, right? Like getting Xavier McKinney and getting Josh Jacobs, like they were incredible this past season. They were amazing, right? So it's like maybe like one more player that's a star per se, like defensive end. If they go all in for Max Crosby, like maybe that's enough. Plus, so I think like 1 to 2 more stars plus significant leaps forward from some of the young talent they have is enough to get them where they need to be. It's just like some combination of that. It's not that they need to make a million aggressive moves. It's not that, all these emotional reactions about, fire LaFleur, blah, blah, blah. It's like, everybody calm down. This team is great. They just need to like mix the pot up a little bit, get some more development out of their young players, and we'll be right there in the 1 to 2 seed mix every year.
Yeah. I mean, I think, because I said this you weren't on this one, Jeff, of like the last time we did it, but I was saying because Tucker Kraft mentioned like he wants to step in the locker room. I think we should run the offense around Tucker Kraft as like a wide receiver one.
He's
I would
amazing,
do it do is like kind of like what Kelsey was to Mahomes. Like you don't have to be like the go-to guy like Rodgers had Adams, of course, or like Driver and Nelson. He just has to be like a better presence and be more involved in the offense, because I think every time Jordan Love threw to Kraft, he did great. Every time he got thrown the ball, he did well. I think you have to get him more reps, because that's going to disguise, and you could use him as a decoy too. And then you can open up the floor to Reed, Dobbs if he's able to play, Watson when he gets back. Like I think Kraft is the key to like if you want to get the passing game better, it's Kraft. Now of course you got to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, of course, because that was one of the big success we had. But you get Kraft involved more, you open up other rooms of the offense. I think that's the key for Matt LaFleur if he wants to win this offense. And then I definitely agree of like you need another star for the defense, because CB is definitely defensive end, like the pipe dream. Obviously, you want a Crosby and Miles Garrett, but it's not going to happen. You got to like the Packers don't do trades. The last time we did trade, we traded with Rasul Douglas, and he's a free agent after this season. So like, I don't see a trade wise. The only way I see us addressing edge is maybe you get a Khalil Mack like you mentioned earlier, or you draft someone that first round. Most likely, knowing the Packers, it's going to be the first round. They're just going to draft edge, and then they have to go big here, because it's ridiculous. If you look back, Jeff, because I was seeing this on Twitter today, I think it was Andy Herman or somebody from Chiefs TV. Somebody posted it. It was like, if you look at from 2021 draft, the first round specifically, of the order of how he drafted, it was the exact order of right now what our needs are of CB, edge, offensive line help. Like every specific order that like we need our needs right now has been the same of like how we drafted from 2021 draft to now of the first rounds only.
Yeah, basically, like what we need right now is what was drafted then, is what you're saying, and it hasn't panned out. Basically, because you have like Stokes, who, I wanted to have hope for, but obviously this season, I think it's proven like he's just, probably going to move on from there. No, I totally agree with that. One more note on the offense is like, yeah, Tucker Craft, like not only has he proven to be, just catches most things that go his way, like fights for the extra yards, but he also just is like personality, right? Like
Yeah,
he just feels like a Green Bay player where it's like he fits in, like he just has that personality, like he's gonna fight for every yard he can get, sort of thing. But the last thing I was gonna say too is like kind of what I was alluding to earlier of like there's other adjustments they can make too that are more like more play action or just having Jordan scramble more, right? Like Jordan is an
yeah,
athletic dude that can obviously run the ball, right? So like I don't know if you guys remember late in the game against the Eagles, there was like a key, I believe it was third down, where I want to say they were only down by 10 or less at the
yeah.
point, and like I just remember there being a play where like he held like this like literally it looked like the Red Sea parted in the middle of the field, and I thought he was just going to easily run up the field, but he like runs 2 yards and then dumps it off to Emmanuel Wilson. I think
Yeah,
it
yeah,
throws it backwards, which could have been a
yeah,
fumble, and I was just like, what the hell just happened? Like, why did he like short circuit at the last second when he had 10 yards of clearance to get that first down? And like
mhm,
that play like fried in my mind after that game where I was like, I think he wasn't right. Like he had to have been hurt, like or just like the knee injury, like
I, yeah,
he didn't feel right, because that was like even like freaking you know Kirk Cousins probably would have taken that running outlet at that point, right? Like it was just so bizarre where like he had so much room and it was almost like the Eagles were allowing it to happen, and then he just dumps it off at the last second to Emmanuel Wilson. That was so bizarre. And so my point being, like, it could just be small adjustments like that too that make a huge
yeah,
difference where there's more design runs or options or not. I'm not saying it should be like a read option, specialist
yeah.
by any means, but like a couple mixed in, play action, he scrambles more. That alone can make a tremendous difference and, you know, have them take a lead next year.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in because the one I always think of his scramble was the Detroit game Thanksgiving, where he had that big run where he did basically a
Yeah,
read option.
towards the end of the
Yeah,
game. Yeah. Yeah. That was
like
like the game clincher. Yeah.
that's what I like. You see Mahomes, he's not the most athletic guy. When you clearly see like his body and everything, like he's not like a 6 pack like ripped dude. He's like Jordan's more athletic, and I agree that the injury had to definitely play a factor in why he couldn't scramble much. But if Mahomes is able to scramble like how he has been and able to get those first downs and get those stupid like flags at the end, like Jordan, you should be able to do this. Like get, I agree with you, Jeff. Like there should be some
Yeah.
run plays. Like Jordan has got to take off. Like because I think a part of it with him, Jeff, is a bit of confidence because he like I think a little confidence plays a factor, but decision making has to improve because there are times where he just waits and tries to find someone just like ready to fire a pistol, but he doesn't know when to throw it away. Like
Hmm.
that is something that has annoyed me throughout the season when I watched him play because he would just wait and like there it left to a pick six against the Rams. He gets sacked a couple times against the Minnesota Vikings. And it was just like you've got to learn when to get rid of the ball. And that will be definitely interesting with the new quarterback coach we have yet to know because we don't have anybody yet. Obviously, we get Luke
Hmm.
Getsy, so that will definitely play a factor because he was the quarterback coach for Aaron Rodgers for a little bit in like his MVP season. So that will definitely play a factor. And then, of course, to go off a little chant here, you got Rich Bisaccia back too. So there's got to be a bit better clock management, is what I'm going to say here to end the games. And
Hmm.
it's got to start with Matt LaFleur, obviously, then Jordan, and then Rich Bisaccia, because apparently he has some influence to the game clock management, which I did not know of, but Twitter says it to me.
No, it's I mean we can go down a rabbit hole about the Versace thing, but yeah, I mean bottom line, like I don't think that there's a ton of needs on offense. I would say offensive
Agreed.
line because running back, it's like you got Josh Jacobs, you got Marshawn Lloyd coming back next year, which could be a huge, exciting variable. Offensive line is already pretty solid, but you add Jordan Morgan to the mix, probably another late round draft pick. Like for the most part on offense, they're fine. You draft a wide receiver, potentially bring back Devontae Adams. That'd be incredible because he's also just one of my favorite Packers ever. He's like one of only 3 Packers jerseys I have. So that would be amazing to like bring him back, have him retire a Packer, and finally get him a ring. That would be a just storybook ending. But yeah, I think offense is mostly fine, and defense I think is also mostly fine too. It's just defensive end, quarterback, like cornerback. It's not a ton of gaping holes. It's just Halfley year two, like Halfley was a tremendous coach. Had a
Yeah,
huge impact on defense first year.
but
Second
that's
year
the
continuity.
yeah. that's the one nice thing we can say is we had a defensive coordinator actually do something well for us instead of like what Mike always said best, and I remember this when we talked about last year PackReacts is Mike always said of like Matt LaFleur has got to not hire his best friend. That has been the problem, Matt LaFleur. You can't just hire Joe Barry. He was best friends with him. Robert Saleh, okay, I get it, like the consultant part, but like it was a best friend move. Like all of these moves like have been best friend moves. And when you go out of the box and you go out of like you think of the mind here and you go Jeff Packer, like nobody knew who he was. And if you took like this offseason, he was definitely going to get a job in the NFL. He was definitely going to be like rising in the ranks, and he could have been with Shanahan because Shanahan from the 49ers was trying to look at him. Thankfully, LaFleur stuck to his mind and went out of the box again. Now we get Hafley, and that's fantastic, though. So that's really good. Unfortunately, you lose Saleh. He goes back to the 49ers to do his old gig with the defensive coordinator. But Hafley did something that we have not done in a while, which is a top 10 defense proficiently in points per game. Takeaways, I mean, that has been a bit of both because you had Joe Barry, you had Mike Penn back in the day. But the biggest thing, Jeff, to me, that was improvement was the run defense. When have we seen a run defense perform so well?
Yeah, like, no, I completely agree, and that's a very foundational thing, right? Where it's like, just in a nutshell, I feel like Hafley far exceeded expectations for year one, and I feel like one of the biggest things that was a success was shoring up the run defense, which plagued us for a decade. Like, that's an incredible foundational development for year one. Build on that year two, like because he also, it's not like he had a ton of influence on the roster, like was able to get like players that he wanted. Like I'm sure he influenced some of the draft potentially, but for the most part, it was probably like, let's see how you do year one. But now it's like, okay, you've proven yourself. I'm sure he's not to say that coaches have a ton of influence on who they draft and stuff, but like obviously Gutekunst is going to take his input of like what he's trying to scheme and stuff. So it's like, I feel very optimistic heading into next year overall, like 2025. But like I said, like before, the honeymoon's kind of over, and it's like if they, barring significant injury, obviously if Jordan misses like, the whole year or whatever, which on a side note, having Malik Willis, like assuming they keep him next year, like that's incredible too. Like we haven't had an actual, like, I know we've had like some fun backups, like, Kurt Banker, like guys like that. Yeah, like going back to Matt Flynn, but never really guys that you felt confident like winning it. But like that was a very exciting part of the first quarter of the season, whereas like when Malik won the Colts game, the Titans game, came into the Jaguars game, like sealed that, like that is a huge development in its own right going into next year, where it's like if Jordan does miss a game or two, like I have all the confidence in the world that Malik can win against whoever, and just like it's just there's just a lot of positives. So I know in social media in general, society in general, people like to always point on the negatives and gripe about everything, but there's a lot of positive in the next season. But I will say, if they end up third in the division next year, squeak into the playoffs, lose a wild card game, then I'm going to be like, okay, this is not trending the right direction. But assuming, they're fighting for 1 or 2 seed, make it to at least divisional, if not conference round, hopefully Super Bowl, obviously, like, sky's the limit. Like this roster is built for success. Like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, like we're in a good spot as a franchise for sure. But I'm sure we have all off season to get into specific topics, and hopefully, if you guys have me back, we can break that all down. But
absolutely,
just enjoy the Super Bowl, enjoy the last football game of the year. Just feel good about where the Packers are heading into next season. And hopefully, and just keep fingers crossed for that splash move. Who knows? Maybe we'll all be shocked and they will get Max Crosby, right, or somebody like that, and we'll have even more reason to be pumped for next year.
Exactly, Mike. You got any last thoughts?
Last thoughts is Super Bowl only comes once a year. Enjoy it. Enjoy the halftime show. Who's the halftime show again this year?
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar.
It's a Super Bowl. We don't get a ton of these, and although it's not a matchup that I think anyone here really wants, it should be a fun time. Enjoy with your friends and family, and hopefully we're here next year. We're talking about a much more exciting Super Bowl with the Packers representing the National Football Conference. And if not, well, we'll be talking probably another Chiefs team against another NFC team we don't like. So, yep.
Most likely, yeah.
I was gonna say, which hopefully next year we're at Lambeau in the NFC Championship game, and we go to that game knowing that going to the Super Bowl is not the best, most economically responsible thing to do these days, and we're all celebrating in Lambeau.
Well, of course,
next year.
of course. I mean, there's no question about it. If if we're in the NFC Championship game at home and we don't go, then you're not ever invited on the chat again. So, as the original co-host of the show, Jeremy will get kicked off if he doesn't go. I will be there, so I won't get kicked off unless for some reason my plane doesn't, get me there or something. But I will be there. So next time the Packers have an NFC Championship game in Lambeau Field, we all better be here. Otherwise, you don't come on the show again, unfortunately.
I'll try to remember next time too. This is a total side note. I just noticed, like, when I join, I gotta type in my social handle, I guess, because I realized that this is the second time now that just says Jeff.
That's right. My name is Jeff.
I don't really.
You should.
I don't really.
You're really gonna change it to my name is Jeff. My name's Jeff.
Yeah, or Jeff with a Y. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But
I'll do it here.
What about you, Jeremy?
Oh, Super Bowl. Well, I won't be watching it. I won't get to enjoy like the best part of the Super Bowl, which is watching the commercials of the halftime show. I'll get to miss that best part, but it will be.
Tell me, you don't get to see the commercials at the Super Bowl?
Unless the TV's
he's gonna
on.
be schmoozing with Tom Brady and giving him his water and stuff.
He's gonna be with Mr. Beast somewhere, and Colin and Samir. Jeremy, you're a Mr. Beast guy.
I am Mr. Beast guy. I watched the Beast
me
games.
too, Jeremy. You like the Beast games?
Yeah,
we should have next season. Let's try to get on, Jeremy.
I'm probably gonna sound like a boomer by saying this, but anytime I've tried to watch any of his content, I feel like I'm having a stroke as I'm watching it. But I feel like I don't know. There's nothing wrong. It's just too fast paced. The editing is just.
Fair.
I think I'm just.
Special effects are kind of annoying sometimes.
I think I'm just beyond the age range that he's aiming for, and I think my attention span goes haywire when I watch that sort of thing. But to each their own.
Yeah, to me, for the Beast games, real quick, it just reminds me of like a Cartoon Network show as a kid, Total Drama Island. It just literally reminds me of that exact show of how everything plays out. I'm like, this is exactly the show.
I know of that, but I haven't seen it. But I think I know what you're generally trying to say there.
Yeah, but that will do it here, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it once again. As always, we will do the Go Pack Joe chant to lead out here. But where you can find us, Jeff, we'll start with you. Where can the folks find you like last time?
I am on X at jmacmann, MACMANN. I don't post often. I'm more of a just information consumer, but this type of outlet, in person, podcast type of outlet is where I really thrive. So if it leads the people to watching more of this, then so be it. But yeah, that's where you can find me on X.
Nice.
You can find me on X, Arvo15 or PackReacts Pod. And I wasn't gonna bring this up on the show, but I think I might have to.
Bring it up, sir. What do you have left?
So I got some advice from an influencer. Actually, she has around 15,000 followers on Instagram.
Okay.
Went on a date this weekend. Anyway, it's a good time. But anyway, I got suggestions for the show, and one of the suggestions was we should do some short form content, and kind of like reels and stuff. So now I got to try to figure out, and I have a lot of ideas, and none of them actually come to fruition. But how we can clip some of these podcasts and post that, and try to get some more feedback. But now I got to figure out how to clip things. That was my one suggestion. So nothing happening yet, but we got to take the feedback and try to implement it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then for me, well, I already just had my videos posted today of Xavier McKinney highlights. So if you want to go check out Xavier McKinney's first team All Pro highlights, go check it out. I have a special friend that likes to say a little bit of a hello to everyone real quick. Twitter, you will not get to see it, but for you Xavier McKinney fans, you can enjoy this real quick. Enjoy
What was
that.
that? Wait, can you do that again?
Hey, Jeremy knows how to do short form content. That's how he just
Yeah.
Can you do it again? Oh. Is that like a jump scare or something for the YouTube viewers?
Yeah, I've now involved that.
Or more just hype videos.
More hype,
Out,
yeah, more hype now. I saw it like when I was doing, because I was making the highlight video last night. I at least saw that clip. I'm like, this would be pretty good just to put on the short form content every time. So I did that. So yeah, I posted the Xavier McKinney video, so you guys can go check that out. And then if you really want to check out my Packers hype for the video for the playoffs, you can go check that out. That's the second most views of all time on the channel, 17,000 views compared to my 20,000 views many years ago. So yeah, a lot of content coming out definitely to start this year and continue it this year.
Keep churning it out, Jeremy.
Good, Jeremy.
You're heading for big things. Schmoozing with Tom Brady, and then just making Oscar-winning short-form content shortly here.
Exactly.
Jeremy's going to be employing us all very soon.
If I get a production team and I get Mr. Beast's crew, then yeah, we can start doing the contract work, Mike.
I'll take it.
My brain might explode, but I'll partake in whatever I can to be of value.
I'll take it. Hopefully I'm a harder worker than I am now.
All right. Well, as always, folks, we like to say the 3 words of the Go Pack Go chant here to send it off here for the PackReacts podcast. And we always have the guests join in on this because we'd like to have the guests participate on this part. But, gentlemen, are we ready to say it?
Of course, Jeremy.
All right.
I don't remember doing this last time, but yeah, let's go for it.
All right. On the count of 3, we're going to do it. 1, 2, 3. Go Pack
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining.